Welcome, everyone. I am absolutely delighted to say that I am joined by two-time Olympic gold medalist and two-time WNBA All-Star Ruthie Bolton. Ruthie, how are you keeping?
I am wonderful. Hey, you know what? I feel great. I feel great. I get to see you and meet you for the first time. And you look so young, like your generation, y'all are just on fire, man. I'm telling you, but I am excited. I'm excited to be here, especially anytime we're gonna talk about girls. Hey, you know, that's my kind of party.
Oh man, and sorry, just to point out, you look so young. Like you look amazing.
Oh, for real? Okay. Well, you know what? I'm transitioning a new hairstyle, and it is taking courage for me with my hair because I'm trying to go natural. And I look at people either like it or say, "Are you gonna fix your hair?" The people on the West
No.
Coast love my hair, but back in Mississippi, they were like, "Serious? Are you gonna go out looking like that?" So somewhere
No,
I'm like,
you look great.
you gotta trust. You
The
gotta
hair.
go with me through the process. You gotta walk with me through this journey. So.
Absolutely. And come here, how is life these days? How is COVID treating you? How's that all going?
I am in Mississippi with my kiddos. I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. And, I have had to pivot in a way where, because this COVID, the chaos of this year, if you tell yourself that it's a bad year, it's going to be a bad year. If you tell yourself things will never be the same, things will never be the same. But if you tell yourself, in spite of what's happening, I'm going to find a way to still be productive. I'm going to find a way to still plant seeds. And so that, and for one, be in gratitude. And I'm thankful, and I know my job is public speaking, going out, and that's that's my money maker. And a lot of those things were cut off. But I found myself like, oh my God, every day I'm getting emails, or this is canceled, this is got to reschedule. But I stopped worried about that it started like in September. I literally, in Mississippi, I went where I was in a car accident 37 years ago. And I'm not trying to sound religious all that, but God spared my life in an accident. I was thrown out of a car. I should have left this world, but he saw fit for me to survive. And from there, I played professional basketball 15 years. I did all these things.
Yeah.
Olympic. I said, I have no room to complain. So gratitude is my word. And people may say, gratitude in 2020. Yes, gratitude, because I'm thankful. Every day I wake up with a heartbeat, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, Ruthie, we're going to talk about attitude a little bit later in the interview. But first, I want to take it right back to when you were a child. Tell me about your childhood, your family. You're one of 20 siblings. Tell me about what it was like growing up in Mississippi.
20 kids, 12 girls, 8 boys. And I might add that I have a twin brother. And I'm a minute older than he is. And I love to share that. But I grew up
to get that in there.
Yeah, I had to get that in there. My dad was a minister, so I'm a PK, preacher's kid. And I grew up just in a very strict household. My dad was big on going to church, discipline, attitude. And the 3 things he taught us about faith, attitude, which I know talk about later, and character.
Those 3 things we're going to talk about later. Go on.
Character and what you do. So my dad, to me, working on those foundations. And I was this little nappy-haired girl, didn't know whether I was coming or going. And my battleground was our backyard. I didn't know anything about what I would eventually become. I didn't know anything about the Olympics, about nothing. I was just this little girl growing up, just worried about every day. And you know what? I hated when it was nighttime. I hated to go inside. I don't know why. I felt like this was going to be the last day of my life. And it was so weird. I felt I would get sad when it started to get dark. I'm like, I want today, because I was a serious tomboy and I played outside. So growing up in my family with 8 brothers and 11 sisters, it was fun, but I was always trying to be, I was trying to stand out in a way because I was quiet. I was trying to stand out in my strength, in my speed, but I felt like I wasn't pretty enough. I felt like I was just like, I was an insecure little girl. But what made me strong in the meantime was I was physically strong. I could climb trees, jump fences, and that was my thing. So I used my physical strength until I could get where I was confident.
And speaking of fences, Ruthie, I wanted to ask, was there any defining moments when you were younger that made you the person you are today? In particular, yes. The fence story that I've heard you talking about before.
I'm in North Dakota, and I'm like a new native. The natives have adopted me, and this is my right here. They are my new family. Love the Native community. I've been coming here for the last 2.5 years. And I was speaking to a group of athletes last night, and I shared a fence story. I said I would be remiss if I didn't share that fence story, because I want them to know that they're on the other side of fear, there's faith. And I said on the other side of this pandemic, there's something great. You got to see beyond the obstacles. So I'm gonna share a fence story real quick. Growing up we lived on about 10 acres, and I had jumped that fence before, but this one particular day, as I was running to jump the fence, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, the fence like it got higher. And I'm thinking like, I know I was here. Like, why can't I jump this fence? So I'm like, let me just take it off. I got this. So I attempted to try to jump the fence again, and it seemed like I couldn't. The fence was like getting taller. I'm like, oh, what is going on? And it was devastating to me because I couldn't jump that fence. I felt like I could have just, because they were leaving me. My cousin, my brothers, like, come on, they was waiting for me to come. And I could have just went out the gate and went where they were, but it was something about, I felt like that fence was blocking me from the future. Like I was just like, I don't know, I gotta get over this fence. Okay, I plundered with that fence for about 15 minutes. The street light came on. And guess what that meant in the house? That we had 5 minutes to be in the house. And I'm thinking like, oh my goodness. And I'm sitting there, I wasn't even hungry for the red beans and rice and cornbread. I didn't want to eat. They said, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I gotta jump over that fence. That's what I was like. They was like, it's no big deal. We know you can do it. Just start where we left off yesterday. I said, no, I gotta do it. The next morning I got up. I'm like, I know I can do it. Ruthie, just see beyond the fence, the obstacle, see yourself on the other side. I got this. Took a deep breath. And as I started to run, I said, you got this. Put everything you got. And I put everything I had. I leaped high over the fence. I didn't quite land on my feet, but I landed. And listen, I celebrated that moment. Wow, I just cleared the fence. And what helped me clear the fence was I started seeing on the other side. The fence, I forgot about the fence. And sometimes in life, the obstacle in a way we can't see on the other side because we focus so much on the obstacle. When I started seeing myself on the other side, seeing myself celebrate, that's when I started to get over. And guess what? I was about 14 years old. This is the significance of the story, is that I didn't know anything about the Olympics. I didn't know anything about Hall of Famers, professional basketball, but that's the moment I embraced my Olympic journey. That's the moment I embraced being a Hall of Famer. That's the moment I embraced becoming a world champion, because it was something inside of me that dug deep enough to take me on the other side. And that's why I share with young people. That's why I shared with the athletes last night, is that look beyond the obstacle. There is something inside of you that is waiting to explore. There's something inside of you waiting for you to spread your wings. And that moment really changed my life forever, because I think about, had I not done that, it would have been easier for me to quit and walk away from other things. But that moment, period, in my life. And so with that said, you got to trust the process. And I told them, I said, what you're doing now, you fall flat on your face, get back up. But what you're doing now is going to define you. But please don't let fear paralyze you from going to the other side.
It's so amazing. Like, I think there's a lot of kids that can really relate to that, and adults, to be fair, out there. And Ruthie, were you always a goal setter? Like when you were 14 with the fence, that was an example of it, but did you say, right, okay, now what do I want from life? Like, how important is it for young people to set goals, do you think?
It's, goals can be a tricky thing. You set these goals and you set realistic goals. You set these goals that, for example, I want to jump 10 fences. You got to jump one first. And I'm gonna give you an example, is that when I eventually started playing basketball, if we got 10 suicides or 10 sprints, if I think about all of those sprints at one time, it is overwhelming. I was like, okay, I'm gonna focus on one. I'm concerned, I got one sprint. And I'm gonna focus on that one sprint. I'm gonna put everything I got in that one sprint. Then after that, I worry about number two. So sometimes we get overwhelmed with just the big, it's a saying, you can't eat the elephant all in one bite. You have to chip away at it a little at a time.
Yeah.
You eat elephants? I don't know if I should say that. But anyway, you got to chip away at it. But I think this new generation, I think they need to take small goals. They need to go small and just say, how can I be the better version of me today?
Yeah.
Like to be tomorrow. And that's every day I get up, what can I be better today than I was the day before? And so to me, that's what it comes to goal setting. Don't get so caught up in, you can think about down the road, yes, but okay, yes, I want to be a basketball player. Okay, so now draw it back. Now, what is it going to take for me to be a basketball player? First of all, I got to set my mind is that I got to start practicing. I start working on this, working on that. Forget about, all that long term, but you focus on the small, because we forget about the task. And young people in this new generation forget about the task. So focus on those small goals, and then it's going to be the gateway for your longer goals.
Definitely. And I think nowadays as well, COVID will disappear, and hopefully we're we're nearly there, but we need to take it day by day, I think, in anything in life, really, don't we? And at this point, sports people could really be honing in on their skills as well, day by day, out the back, like you said, in your state, just tipping away at different skills. So it really is a day by day thing. How was school for you, Ruthie? You said earlier you were quiet. Were you quiet in school? Did you just do your thing, or?
You know what? I was quiet. And you know what? Something my baby brother said about me in the documentary that they did on my family. He said, one thing about me, I wasn't a boastful. Like I would say, I proved a lot by my action, by my, by doing more push-ups, by climbing a tree faster, by sprinting. And if I did something spectacular, I didn't do it as a way of bragging and saying I'm better than you. I did it as a way of saying, if I can do it, you can do it too. And I was like, oh, thank you, baby brother. But I think for us in school, I was quiet. They said my twin brother took all my words. I didn't like speaking long speeches. I was I had an image of what, like, I didn't know who I was really. I think the things I did, I was just sort of trying to find myself. But my father was, during that time, my father would say, you know what, it's what's inside that counts. It wasn't like I always complained about my hair. And back then I was serious. I usually thought my skin was too dark. And I was just like, man, my sister that playing basketball, everything is going great for her. I felt like she was prettier than me. She had lighter skin. Her hair was prettier. She had, she was taller. But in school, I was just this quiet person, but I did my work. I was disciplined. And my older sister tell me that I was a leader of my twin brother. She said, I'm not surprised you're doing what you're doing. She said, you would take up for him. If he got in trouble, you were like, oh, he didn't mean to. Or I would tell him, hey, you got to get your shoes on. We're going to get in trouble. Like I was always trying to guide him. And she said, so I didn't have a lot to say, but my actions as a quiet person, just like I was like loud silence. My nieces have a production company now called Loud Silence. So I said, you know what? That sounds like me. It was like loud silence.
That's unreal. And self-esteem then, how is that? So you were getting your schoolwork done, you were doing your training, and as you progressed into an amazing career. How important is self-esteem and building that in others around you? You were keeping an eye on your brother, but what about everyone around you? Like for people in school now who might see someone who needs a bit of a lift, like how important is that?
It's so important. Basketball was also a gateway for me. Sports, finding something that you can shine in, find something that you can say something without saying something. And so within myself, it's like there's something inside of us. We all want to be admired. We all want to be noticed. We all want to fit in. And basketball was a way that I could fit in, like sports, like, wow, sport is a way that people can notice me. It doesn't matter. You want people to notice you to a certain level. You want someone to notice what you're doing, notice any type of find something positive in you. And so I think with this day and time, I always, when I go and I share with a lot of young kids, I say, you know what, there's greatness inside of you. I'm here to remind you that there's greatness inside of you. And so surround yourself with people that's going to lift you up. If those people that are toxic bring you down, you really got to find new people. And so, if you got a strength to share and you see someone, and I was pretty good at doing it, even though I was quiet, I was pretty good at watching, observing people that, are you okay? You need it. They was like, oh, thank you for, and I did that out of just sort of like, there was something I think just natural built in me, where that's sort of that quiet leader. But I was also concerned about the morale of everybody. So I think with this day and time, the ones that, if someone that need that support, you sort of got to surround yourself with people that can build you up until you could tap into your own inner strength and tap into your own inner strength. And that's what is so important to me when I go and I speak to a group of young people. I say, you know what, there's strength inside of you. I said, there's nobody in the world like you. I said, your set of fingerprints, nobody in the world, how unique, nobody like you. So I remind them, say, you are unique. And I said, what if you knew you matter? And that's what I shared with the kids last night. If you really knew that you matter, and they're like, wow. I said, because you do. But there's nobody in the world like you.
Well, I think back then your actions speak louder than words, but now, like, you are so inspiring. I'm sitting here and I'm like, yes, come on, Ruthie, let's go do suicide outside. What's your first memory of picking up a basketball?
My first memory, growing up in a family of 20, picking up a basketball was, we played in our backyard. You hear the story from every Southern athlete. Oh, it was a rim on the tree, but that's true. I got a picture of an ugly bicycle rim. That's what we played shooting. So I picked up a basketball really, and that was a sport that we played. When you got a family of 20, what else you gonna do? You can't do a one-on-one sport. it got to be a team sport. So I was about 8 or 9, and I really wasn't that good. Sometimes when I go and I'm like, wow, I became an Olympian. I'm like, and when I look, I was not really, I tell myself I wasn't that good of a player. I said I had this fight and tenacity into me, and that's what really helped me. But basketball was something I gravitated towards. But guess what? Because I asked the kids, why do you play basketball? I said, you know what? And a lot of them say, I play, I like it. I just like it. I don't know why I play. I said, I play because it is so rewarding. And guess what? You can shoot. If you miss, you can play defense. When you get back on offense, you can pass the ball. You can set a screen. It's so much you can do to make like you make a mistake. Like I'm a person, like I like to be rewarded. I like to pick stuff fast. If I miss a shot, I'm like, I'm gonna get back on defense and I ain't gonna let you score. Like I love to fix stuff. I don't like to, like when I played and I messed up, I didn't like when coaches sat me down. I'm like, can you give me a chance to fix my mistakes? But basketball gives you that opportunity to correct yourself and different other things. So that's really why I love the game so much, because of the competitiveness, and you have the opportunity to really, a lot of opportunity to really gain your strength and to reward yourself.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of different positions as well. A lot of different players can play basketball, which I find is really, really good. And in terms of role models, Ruthie, back then, who did you look up to? I'm going to ask you later on who your leaders are now, but back then, did you have any role models?
I looked up to my father, my dad, and I know that probably sound like, okay, just, it should be. And maybe they think it should be athletes. And a lot of times kids have asked who's my role model. If I don't share the story, they say, oh, Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or their name. I say, you know what, those players were amazing. They were great. But no, my role model I got to see in my house every day. I grew up. He the one that encouraged me when I felt like giving up. He was the one that gave me a hug when I needed one. He was the one that was there for me and gave me, instilled this wisdom. He would say something like, if you're taking life into just a few principles, you won't have to carry a suitcase full of rules. Yeah. He was the one that would say that life is 10% of what happens to you, but 9% how you respond to it. He was there. That was him. It wasn't some figure on television that I saw that I would never probably meet. It was someone that was there with me, that whispered in my ear that you are somebody that inspires. You don't have to look like your situation. That don't let anyone take your power. So my dad was my role model because he was there when I needed him, and he was right at my fingertips.
It's amazing. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. We're always looking for, it's like Michelle Obama, or it's all these different, LeBron James, but like it could actually be your mom or your dad. And that's amazing. So fair play.